Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about America and its desperate need of fathers. I think, right now America is actually at a crisis, in a crisis, because of the lack of fathers. Now, there's one thing that this country has done is that a lot of people have turned away from God or are not seeking God as it used to. And the one thing that I would say that made America great was its love of God, was that the family institution in the United States was centered around God. But now you can see that a lot of people are moving away from God, or they're not seeking God. Families are not invested into the things of God. And you're seeing a lot of households in the United States nowadays where it's one mother with three children and several baby daddies, fathers on the side or boyfriends or all types of things. I mean, the family structure, the family institution within the United States at this point, it is upside down. The family institution is just all over the place, and the office of the father is largely gone, and this is something that is affecting the country. Young men do not have a father figures to even teach them how to tie a tie. Now you can say, well, you could go on YouTube, you can go on all these platforms to learn these basic things that your father would teach you. But a growing boy, and the Bible tells us a lot about this, a growing boy needs a father figure. A growing boy needs a father to teach him discipline and give him instruction. Very first thing, one of the very first things that God establishes, or the very first thing, let's go right back to that. The very first thing that God establishes for human beings in the Bible is the institution of marriage, the institution of family. Adam and Eve, mother, father. Then you have Cain and Abel. And I'm going to tell you that throughout the entire Bible, family is very important. Family line, bloodline, all these things are very important. And in the U.S., the fathership role has gone down the drain, and it's not respected anymore. And it's one thing that I'll tell you is making a lot of young men feel lost. It's a lot of things that's making a lot of young men feel unwanted. So it's this thing. It's this thing that makes me think about, you know, if the family institution, if the family structure within a country is horrible, then the country will start to feel its effects. Because what happens is, in the family, if you have a father figure, the father figure will teach boys how to be men, and it will also teach women, young girls, the love of the father. Because when you're a young girl, you're a little girl, and your father loves you, and your father protects you, your father shows you what it means to be loved by somebody, it has a huge effect on growing little girls. When they become a woman, they understand what respect is, they understand what love is, they understand when someone truly cares about you. When they get into the dating world, they can then separate men who truly care about you and men who don't want anything to do with you. And it's a structure that protects children, that teaches children. Because the thing is, it's the job of the father and the mother to teach the children. But if you live in a household where you don't have a father, and your mother is always working, and your mother is living alone, she has to support the whole family. She has no time to teach you anything. She just has to make money to keep the bills on. And so, when there's no father in the home, when children are being raised by a single mother, it ruins the family structure, the family institution, and also it's horrible for society. It's horrible for society. And the thing is that the statistics prove it. When you look at the real world statistics on family, when children are raised by single mothers, they're more likely to get into trouble. They're more likely to commit crimes. They're more likely to experience horrible lives. It's always better for children to grow in two-parent homes. And for a lot of young men who grew up in this country without father figures, well, again, I'll tell you this. Look at it this way. For a lot of young men, 0 to 10, you're a young boy. Your mother can pretty much, some boys can push you around from 0 to 10. But as soon as, for a lot of young boys, as soon as you hit 13, 14 years old, you're probably taller than your mom, because a lot of boys, by the time you're 14, you're pretty much, you're taller than a lot of young boys are taller than their mom by 14, 15 years old. By the time they're in high school, they're already taller than their mom, stronger than their mom, and they're already looking like physically, they're already looking down at their mothers. Um, when you, and especially in high school, when you disrespect your mother, usually your father will step in and stand with you toe to toe, show you discipline, show you respect. But again, a lot of young men, a lot of young boys are growing in this country with no father figure. They've never met their fathers, and you're seeing a huge number of them have no respect for teachers, for people of power. And again, the Bible teaches us that, as Christians, as people who believe in God, or as just people in general, when you live in a society, you have to, it's a social contract, really. And the Bible talks about that. The Bible talks about hierarchies. When you live in a society, you have to follow the rules of the society. In a society, you have to respect, or be a part of the systems that are in place. But when you grow up in a society, in an institution, because society is comprised of several different types of institutions. The first institution that we're introduced to is the mother father family institution. If that's broken for a lot of kids, the others are broken as well. Because if your father and mother don't teach you how to respect your elders, if your father and mother doesn't teach you how to respect other people, how to carry yourself within society, and you're just going about freely doing whatever you want, that's what happens. And that's what happens when a lot of young men get into trouble. They have no responsibility, because when you have a father figure in the home, um, and he is a man who has followed God, who is following Christ, you have to understand that type of man, he'll have his family running in order. Listen, women have an office and the husband have an office. Men and women are not equal. That's really, I mean, that's a huge statement right there. Let's talk about that for a minute. God created men and women for different purposes. Okay, God created man, and then He created Eve, because it's not good for man to be alone. Then God created a woman that is comparable to man. So, what I mean by equal here, I'm saying that God created men and women for different purposes. In their purposes, they excel. In their calling, they excel. Because if God created you for something specific and you walk it, you will find fulfillment, you will find happiness, you will find purpose. But when you try to escape it or abandon that position, then you don't know what you're doing with your existence. Okay, so in the family institution, I'm not saying that in the Bible it's saying that, fathers do their thing, mothers do their thing, and children do their things, and there's like this battle between men and women. No, God created offices for both men and women, and especially within the family, the father has his role and the mother has her role. We have to really understand this. And when in the home the father is absent, then the children are pretty much, they're in the wind. The children are in the wind, because a mother cannot play both the father and mother role. I know a lot of mothers today will say, well, I'm both mom and dad. You can't be two people. You can't fulfill two offices, because you weren't created to fill two offices. If you're a woman, you were created to fill the mother role. If you're a man, you're created to fill the father role. Now families are comprised of all types of monstrosities, of all types of, like, three kids, three different fathers, a side wife, a side girl. American society is just upside down. And what it pretty much comprises, what it pretty much creates, is this reality where you have all types of relationships. People are getting hurt left and right. Children are confused. Children are being raised in toxic, unhealthy households. Mothers are not happy because, again, humans, we want to have a significant other around. If a mother is raising her kids, she has no husband, no one to love her, the same type of love that she would have if she had a husband, if she was in a marriage raising her kids, she's not experiencing it. So the absence of fatherhood, or this type of reality that exists within America right now, where there's an absence of fathers, it's hurting a lot of people. And again, we will see this hurt our society in terms of men not being men, not men not growing up to be men, in terms of women not learning how to respect themselves and know what true love is. It affects young girls, it affects boys, it affects future men and future women. And it will create a society where men and women are always fighting. Because again, for the large part, men and women have left their God given offices. If you won't walk in the office that God gave you within the Bible, it really leaves you in a spiral where you're out of control. If we talk about equality, we talk about men and women, and this is like in 2022 within the world right now. This is the biggest debate, the equality debate between men and women. And I'll tell you that we both have our offices. Women can work in business, they can have their jobs, they can have their careers, they can excel, they can be artists, they can be whatever they want in America. There's nothing that holds back a woman in America. But the role of mother is for women, and the role of father is for men. It's the father's job to be the head of the household. That is a biblical fact. And if you try to abandon that position, it will just leave everybody confused and upset and utterly hurt, emotionally hurt, physically hurt, and unhappy. When men abandon their roles, it's not good for society. And then so you will see, because there's an absence of fathers, because men refuse to be fathers, refuse to get married, refuse to take care of their loved ones, there's an absence of fathers, and it's affecting young men. And this is why you're seeing a lot of young men going out into experiencing depression, suicide, getting involved in gangs and shootings and all these types of things, because they have no father figures to call after them, to show them discipline, to teach them discipline. That's one thing that God says within the Bible, is that it is the father's job, the mother's job, to teach discipline. But if children can't find this, if this institution is broken, well, sooner or later, you're going to have a generation, a country filled with a bunch of people, a bunch of adults who never found the love of their mothers, the love of their fathers, the love of their families. They won't understand how to give love or to receive love. They won't understand respect, how to respect elders, how to respect each other. And then you will just have a society filled with hurt people. And again, I say this starts with men. Because if men will not accept their office, if men will not walk within their office of fatherhood, it really messes up. It really hurts the entire society. So that's why in the United States you see such a high rate of single mothers, single fathers, upside down relationships, entanglements, mistresses. I mean, it is becoming a freak show. I mean, even polygamy is coming back at this point. It's a mess of open relationships and upside down relationships, and it's a mess of people not even respecting marriage anymore. And what you're seeing a bunch of people falling into depression, confusion, unhappiness, unfulfillment, because again, God warns us about this. When it's not between a man and a woman, marriage, children, once that institution is broken, all you're going to see in society is just a cesspool of open relationships, polygamy, upside down relationships. It's going to lead a lot of people hurt, unhappy, and flipped over and confused. And this will affect children. You see more depression, more unhappiness, more unfulfillment with a lot of people. And it's going to break a lot of people's spirits and hearts. Because the more you try to piece together a relationship for yourself, a life for yourself, a family for yourself, the more you're going to be met with disorder. Now, God is a God of order. God is a God of order. That's why he establishes in the get-go the family institution. God is a God of order. And the more we walk out of disorder, men will not accept their office of fatherhood. Women will not accept their office of motherhood. Well, children will continually feel the impact of that. Again, men and women are not equal. They have different offices. I'm not saying women can't have jobs. I'm not saying they can't be bosses. I'm not saying they can't make their money. I'm not saying that they can't be doctors or lawyers or be successful. That's not what I'm saying. But the role of mother is mother. Submissiveness means, the Bible calls for women to be submissive. And the way that the Bible, not the way that the world describes submissive, the way that the Bible, not the way that the world describes submissive, but the way that the Bible describes submissiveness is a woman that can be a mother, she can be a boss, she can be, she can pursue her dreams. But when it comes to her family, she can have that that willingness to be a mother, to let her husband be the head of the household, that sweetness, that kindness, that generosity, that gentleness. Because again, when a man loves a woman, the energy that like she can control her whole house with her attitude, her energy, her disposition. If she's quarreling, she's argumentative, it'll just make her husband, her significant other, bitter. But the more sweet, the more kind, the more generous, the more welcoming a woman is, like she'll have her husband. Look at Song of Solomon within the Bible. In Song of Solomon, the woman that is portrayed, or the woman that is in there, when you read the Song of Solomon, she is kind, sweet, loving, like love abounding, and her husband in the Song of Solomon, well, he's the picture of perfection. If you want to know what true submissiveness is, it's the woman in the Song of Solomon. Very important. It's not being a yes woman or a yes wife. It's demonstrating that generosity, comprehension, kindness, competency. But it also calls for men to be exactly that way too. The Bible tells men to love their wives as much as Christ loved the church. And if men could love their wives as Christ loved the church, then women would be submissive. Women would listen. Because nothing beats the love of Christ. Because Christ was willing to die for the church. That is mind-boggling right there. So America is in a very peculiar place, and I'm telling you, if the family institution is not fixed within America, it will be a big problem, because you'll see more generations of broken people, people who are getting hurt, people who are indulging in sexual immorality because they've never gotten discipline or learned how to live with other people. And you're just going to keep getting a generation of people who change partners every other week. They can't build families. They're hurt all the time. They're unhappy, unfulfilled. And men will get bitter. You'll see more alpha men over and over again. You'll see a lot of alpha men coming out from the works. And you'll see more bitter women. So, I'm telling you, 10 years, 20 years from now, what you'll see if this doesn't change, if the family institution is not fixed, you see a lot of alpha men who are literally bringing back polygamy. And then you'll see on the other side, boss, bitter women that are literally, hate everybody. So it's a society of pain and hurt. Because the Bible warns us, like the Bible tells us several times, avoid the adulteress, avoid a woman who loves to argue, a quarreling woman. Even Proverbs tells us like it's better to be in a desert. Think about what Proverbs says. Proverbs says it's better to be in a desert than to be in a house with like an argumentative or quarreling woman. And I'm telling you, when a woman is scorned, a woman is bitter, she's been stabbed in the heart enough times, like she becomes your worst nightmare. She becomes, think about Jezebel and how bitter, angry, and malicious she was. If you stab a woman enough in the heart, because like one thing with women, whatever you give a woman kindness, she'll give you gentleness. You give a woman gentleness, she'll give you love. You give a woman love, she'll give you heaven. But in the same way, if you give a woman bitterness, she'll give you hate. You give her hate, she'll give you hell. Like the Bible specifically tells men, Here's your office. Here's your role. I mean, when you read the Bible, the Bible calls us to be leaders, to be loving, to be kind, to be generous, to be like Christ. If men are like Christ, then women will be like the church. That's the comparison that the Bible makes between husbands and wives. And children excel when they're in that type of atmosphere. But men are not being like Christ. Men are not pursuing Christ. And so, well, you see the deterioration of American society. When American society used to champion honor, respect, respecting elders, people in office, that's just gone. Now it's just like everybody with a knife, guns blazing, and all our moral things that we used to value, all our American values are just going down the drain. So there is a huge absence of fathers, a lot of single mothers, and it's getting worse. And the sure way to bring it back, to reestablish this, is that this country really needs to turn back to God. People really need to start reading their Bibles and start praying, because the further we get from God, the more disorder we'll see within America. And that's the thing that's mind-boggling, because like all the statements that God talks about, that God puts within his Bible, when you take them and you examine them closely with the society that we have, it is eye-opening. Extremely eye-opening. So that's what I had to say about that. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.